Have you ever worked the night shift in a hospital? If you have, you know that the quiet hours between midnight and dawn have a feeling all their own. The air gets heavy, the shadows stretch, and every sound echoes a little too loudly. Now imagine a hospital with a room that doesn't exist on any chart. A room that's always locked, always dark. Welcome to Crestwood General Hospital, and welcome to the story of room 404. Crestwood stood at the edge of a quiet European town, the kind where fog clings to old stone roads like a shroud. The hospital itself was modern, a beacon of glass and steel. But its older wings, especially the fourth floor, held onto a history that most people tried to forget. Room 404 was the darkest secret of them all. The door was always locked. Its lights were never on. For new staff, it might as well have been a supply closet, but the older nurses knew better. They'd walk a wide circle around it, their eyes fixed straight ahead. They never ever looked through its small glass window, because they knew the bed inside was always occupied, even when it was supposed to be empty. One bitter winter night, the wail of a siren cut through the silent town. An ambulance arrived carrying a middle-aged man, found unconscious near the abandoned railway line. He was suffering from hypothermia and severe confusion, but it was his words that sent a shiver down the spine of the EA staff. He kept repeating the same phrase over and over again. Room 404. She said it's waiting. She said it's open. The doctors brushed it off as a hallucination, a side effect of the cold. But the nurses exchanged nervous glances. No one outside the hospital was supposed to know about that room. The man was admitted and taken to the fourth floor for observation, placed safely in room 406, but the night was far from peaceful. Alarms started blaring from his room, one after another. Each time a nurse rushed in, they found him out of bed, standing in the hallway, his gaze locked on the dim, forbidding door of room 404. His eyes were wide, not with confusion, but with a terrifying sense of recognition, as if he saw something there that no one else could. He wasn't just looking at a door. He was looking at a destination. At 2:17 a.m., the security cameras caught him again. This time he wasn't just wandering. He was moving with a strange, deliberate purpose, as if someone invisible was leading him by the hand. He followed this unseen guide, step by methodical step, until he reached the locked door of room 404. A security guard, watching on the monitor, zoomed in. The man pressed his ear against the cold wood. His lips trembled, and he whispered something to the door. The audio picked up just 3 words: "You followed me home." A split second later, the monitor went haywire. The screen filled with static, flickering with distorted shapes. For just a moment, a pale, slender silhouette appeared behind the glass window of the door before the feed cut out completely. The guard, his heart pounding, shut off the screen. He had seen enough. Then, at 3:04 a.m., something happened that the entire fourth floor felt. Every light flickered and died. Just for a second. Just long enough. When the power surged back on, the nurses in the hallway froze. The door to room 404 was open, not wide open. Just a crack. A dark, narrow void, wide enough to make it clear that something had either slipped out or been invited in. A heavy silence fell over room 406. It was too quiet. When the nurses finally built up the courage to enter, they found an empty bed. The window was shut and locked. The bathroom was empty. There was no sign of the patient anywhere, but the cold. The cold in that room was unnatural, a deep, penetrating chill like a winter cellar. And on the floor, a faint, shimmering trail of water led from the empty bed, out into the hallway, and stopped directly in front of the open door of room 404. Only one nurse dared to follow it. Her name was Elise Kovacs, 52 years old, with 30 years of night shifts under her belt. She was the one everyone turned to when things got strange. The one who wasn't afraid of anything. At least not until that night. She followed the wet trail to its end and stood before room 404. The door was now wide open, revealing a darkness that seemed to swallow the light from the hallway. And inside, the bed was no longer empty. The missing patient was lying on it, his body unnaturally still, his face turned away from the door. Elise called his name. Silence. She stepped closer, her shoes squelching softly on the damp floor. As she did, the overhead heart monitor, which had been dead for years, flickered to life. Its screen glowed a stark, sterile white, and a sound began to play through its dusty speaker. A slow, mechanical, and utterly unnatural heartbeat. Beep, beep, beep. With a shaking hand, Elise reached for the sheet to turn the man over, but she froze. His hands were gripping the metal bed frame, his knuckles white. It was as if something had been holding him down with incredible force. His fingers were a deep, deathly blue. Whispering a prayer, she carefully turned him. But the face she saw was not the man who had arrived just hours ago. This face was swollen, pale, and waterlogged, like a body that had been pulled from a river after days in the water. Elise stumbled back in horror. At that exact moment, the lights in the room snapped off, plunging her into absolute blackness. But in that final fleeting moment before the darkness consumed everything, she saw it. Another shape sitting at the foot of the bed. A thin woman, her clothes and hair dripping water onto the floor. Her head was tilted at an impossible angle, and her eyes were two pits of endless black. It was the woman from the hospital's whispered legends. The patient who died in room 404 decades ago, and never left. The hallway erupted into chaos. Doors slammed open, medical carts fell over, and every alarm on the floor began to shriek at once. Other nurses ran toward the room, but the door to 404 slammed shut right before they could reach it, the lock clicking into place from the inside. And from within, they heard Elise scream. It wasn't a scream of words, but a raw, primal sound of pure terror. When security finally broke the door down, they found her huddled on the floor, shaking uncontrollably. Her eyes were wide, fixed on the bed, which was now empty. The drowned woman was gone. The patient was gone. All that remained was a single wet sheet, cold to the touch, and twisted into the shape of a body that had been lying there just moments before. By the next morning, Elise's dark hair had turned completely gray. The hospital administration moved quickly. They confiscated all the CCTV footage, all the incident reports, every written note about that night. Room 404 was sealed again, this time with fresh locks and heavy boards nailed over the door. The official story was that the patient, in a state of confusion, had simply walked out of the hospital and disappeared. But every single person who worked on the 4th floor that night knew the truth. He didn't walk out. He was taken back. Because room 404 doesn't let its patients go, not once they've answered its call. In the weeks that followed, the strange occurrences continued. Night shift staff would report hearing soft dripping sounds as they passed the sealed door, as if someone soaking wet was standing just on the other side. Some claimed to see pale, waterlogged fingers curling around the edge of the tiny window frame. Others saw a dark silhouette standing by the bed in the moonlight. And sometimes on the quietest nights, right around 3 a.m., a faint whisper would echo through the hall. Room 404, it's open. No one dares to investigate anymore. No one gets too close. Because everyone at Crestwood has finally understood one chilling fact. The bed in room 404 is never truly empty. It just waits, and eventually, it always chooses its next patient. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy stories that explore the darkness that lurks just out of sight, make sure to follow for more. Sleep well.